For a million years ago, the world was raw and untamed, a vast tapestry of towering trees, tangled vines, and the distant roar of ancient beasts. In the heart of this wildness, beneath a dense canopy where sunlight barely kissed the ground, a young Australopithecus named Luma struggled to keep up. Luma was not the strongest or the fastest in her troop. She was smaller, lighter, with eyes wide full of wonder and cautious hope. Today, she had stumbled. A careless step on the moss-covered roots left her ankle twisted and throbbing, and pain blurred her vision. The troop, always moving forward, had vanished ahead, their familiar calls fading into the thick jungle air. Alone, she felt the heavy weight of silence settle over her. The forest was no friend to weakness. Every shadow might hide a predator. Every rustle could be the last sound she'd ever hear. Fear gripped her small heart. The branches swayed, the leaves whispered secrets, but none spoke of safety. And then, from the dim shadows emerged a figure. Oro, an old male of the troop, known not for strength or leadership but for his quiet presence at the edges. He was a relic, slow and worn by countless seasons. Others passed him by, focused on survival's ruthless demands. But as Oro approached, something shifted. His gaze softened when it landed on Luma's pain-stricken face. No growl, no warning. Just slow, careful steps, deliberate and steady. He lowered himself beside her, offering not judgment, but a quiet companionship. The jungle, vast and indifferent, had brought them together. Two fragile lives, linked not by blood or power, but by something else, something that would echo through millions of years, the choice to stay, to help, and to care. As twilight draped the forest in its deep blues and purples, the jungle's symphony softened. Somewhere distant, a river whispered over stones, and the night air filled with the hum of insects and the rustling of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. Luma's small body trembled with pain and cold, her twisted ankle throbbing like a silent drumbeat against the stillness. Oro, the old male, had found a quiet clearing where the flicker of firelight painted shadows across their faces. He had managed to spark a small flame from dry twigs, an incredible feat for a being who had only just begun to understand fire's secret warmth. The fire's glow was more than light, it was protection, a fragile shield against the dark and the unknown. Oro should have left her there. It would have been the law of survival, to focus on the strong, the swift, the useful. The weak were often left behind, forgotten like fallen leaves in the forest floor. But something deeper stirred inside Oro's weary heart, something beyond hunger or fear. With deliberate care, he peeled a piece of sweet fruit, the last morsel he had. Holding it out to Luma, he watched as her eyes, heavy with pain but bright with surprise, accepted the gift. It was not just fruit he gave, it was hope. A silent promise that she was not alone. That night, Oro sat beside her, his back turned against the chilly wind, his breath slow and steady. He shielded her from the cold, from the shadows, from the loneliness. No one told him to stay. No one watched, no one praised. He stayed because, in that moment, kindness was stronger than instinct, and the old ape's heart beat a new rhythm, the first pulse of compassion. When dawn stretched its pale fingers across the sky, the forest awoke with a chorus of life, birdsong echoed through the branches, a gentle breeze stirred the leaves, and a distant stream gurgled its morning greeting. Oro, exhausted beyond words, rose slowly, cradling Luma against his chest. Her small body was weak, but safe. The journey back to the troop was slow and painful. Each step tested Oro's strength, every breath a battle. Yet, he pressed on, driven not by hope of reward but by a silent promise to protect the fragile life in his arms. After hours that stretched like an eternity, faint calls greeted them, the voices of the troop, growing louder, more anxious. When they arrived, the other Australopithecines gathered hesitantly. Their eyes were filled with confusion and something harsher, skepticism. Why had Oro, the old and forgotten, risked so much for one so small and weak? Survival was supposed to be about strength, competition, not care. But as Luma slowly opened her eyes, safe and warm, the troop's mood began to shift. One by one, individuals stepped forward. An elder reached out a gentle hand to touch Oro's worn back, a young female offered berries, and a mother wrapped her arms protectively around Luma's trembling frame. It was a quiet moment, but within it lay a profound transformation. The troop was no longer just a band of survivors competing for scraps, it was becoming a community. A family. They were learning, without words, that strength wasn't only muscle or speed, but the willingness to carry each other through the dark moments. And in that moment, something ancient and powerful blossomed, not in the forest, but in their hearts, the first spark of true kindness. A fire that would one day define what it meant to be human. We often think of evolution as a story of bones, tools, and towering cities. We imagine progress in leaps of science, language, and technology. But the true beginning of what makes us human wasn't carved in stone or spoken in words. It was quietly born in the heart of a forest, 4 million years ago, when one old ape made a choice. Oro's act of kindness, staying with Luma when the world said leave her, was not just an exception. It was the first flicker of something that would grow and ripple through countless generations. That choice, made in silence and shadow, was the seed of compassion. That seed took root in our ancestors, spreading beyond survival into something deeper: empathy, community, the power to care for those weaker, slower, or hurting. It's the spark that turns strangers into friends, enemies into allies, and individuals into families. And today, when we look around our modern world, from bustling cities in America to small towns across the globe, we carry that same fire. It's in the way we lift each other up during hardship, share kindness without expecting anything in return, and choose compassion over cruelty. Sometimes, it's easy to forget how ancient and powerful that spark is. But when the world feels overwhelming, when challenges seem too big, we only need to remember Oro and Luma, two fragile lives in a wild forest, who showed us that even in the darkest moments, kindness can light the way. We are not just survivors. We are caretakers. We are builders of hope. We are, at our core, the legacy of that first choice to stay, to help, to love back when we were still apes.